Have you ever lost everything you thought defined your life, your job, your money, your home, and felt like the ground beneath your feet had disappeared? Have you ever stared at the pieces of your life scattered around you and thought, "This is the end. I have nothing left"? If you have, then you know the hollow ache that fills your chest, the fear that whispers in the back of your mind, and the deep silence that makes you wonder if you'll ever rise again. But sometimes, in losing everything, we discover the truth about what matters most. Sometimes, being stripped of all we thought we needed is the only way we can finally see what we truly cannot live without. This is the story of Michael Carter, a man who left with nothing but found everything that really matters. And perhaps, in his journey, you will find a reflection of your own. Michael grew up in Chicago, in a neighborhood where dreams seemed more like luxuries than necessities. His father worked long shifts at a factory, his mother cleaned offices at night, and Michael learned early that survival required sacrifice. But he also learned something else. If you worked hard enough, if you never gave up, you could build a life beyond what you were born into. By his late 20s, Michael was living the life he had once only imagined, and a car that turned heads when he pulled into the parking lot. He wore expensive suits, carried the newest phone, and walked with the confidence of a man who believed he was on top of the world. Here's the truth. Michael measured his worth by the things he owned. He wanted to prove to himself and to everyone else that he had made it. Then, one morning, the life he had built came crashing down. The company where Michael worked was bought out by a larger firm. Within weeks, entire departments were being cut. And one gray Friday afternoon, Michael was called into his manager's office and told that his position had been eliminated. He sat there in silence, the words echoing in his head like thunder. Eliminated. Gone. No warning. No preparation. Just an abrupt end to everything he had worked for. But months passed, and rejection followed rejection. His savings dwindled, the rent piled up, and soon he was forced to sell his car, then his furniture, and finally, his apartment. One cold evening, Michael found himself standing on the streets of Chicago with a single suitcase and nowhere to go. He had left his apartment for the last time, handed over his keys, and realized he was a man with nothing. No job, no car, no home. Just the clothes on his back and the storm in his heart. That night, he slept on a bench near the train station. He stared at the ceiling of the night sky, asking himself how everything had fallen apart so quickly. He thought of his father, who had once told him, "Son, don't ever tie your worth to what you own, because the day you lose it, you'll lose yourself too." And for the first time, Michael understood what his father meant. Days turned into weeks. Michael wandered from one shelter to another, searching for food, searching for answers. He was no longer Michael Carter, the man in the sharp suit. He was just another face in the crowd, another man the world had forgotten. But it was in that emptiness, in that silence, that something began to shift. One evening, while standing in line at a shelter, Michael noticed an older man sitting at the corner of the room. The man's clothes were ragged, his beard long and gray, but his eyes were bright, filled with a strange kind of peace. Unlike everyone else, who looked tired and defeated, this man smiled as if he carried a secret the world could not take away. Michael sat beside him and asked, "How do you do it? How do you smile when you have nothing?" The old man chuckled softly. "Who told you I have nothing? That's not nothing. That's everything." Michael frowned. He wanted to argue, but the man's words echoed in his chest. That night, lying awake on the thin cot at the shelter, he thought about the man's smile, and for the first time since losing his job, Michael began to wonder if maybe the measure of a man wasn't in his possessions, but in his perspective. The turning point came a week later. Michael was sitting on the sidewalk, his suitcase beside him, when a little girl walked past with her mother. The girl dropped her stuffed toy on the ground without noticing, and the mother kept walking. Michael picked it up and called out, "Excuse me, you dropped this." The girl ran back, her face lighting up with gratitude. "Thank you, sir," she said, clutching the toy to her chest. In that small exchange, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in months, a sense of worth, not because he owned anything, not because he had achieved anything, but because he had done something that mattered to someone. It was then he realized maybe he had lost his job, his home, his car, but he hadn't lost his ability to make a difference. He hadn't lost his kindness. He hadn't lost his heart. From that day on, Michael began to shift his focus. Instead of chasing what he didn't have, he started to value what he could give. He He volunteered at the shelter, serving meals, cleaning tables, talking with people who felt invisible. Slowly, he rebuilt not his bank account, but his sense of purpose. Months passed, and through volunteering, Michael met people who connected him to new opportunities. He eventually found a job not as glamorous or high-paying as before, but one that gave him stability and meaning. He rented a modest apartment, bought a used car, and began to build again. But this time, the foundation was different. He no longer measured his worth by the shine of his watch or the view from his window. He measured it by the people he loved, the kindness he gave, and the peace he carried in his heart. He had left with nothing, but in the emptiness, he found everything that mattered. And now, my friend, I want you to pause and think about your own life. What are you holding on to that you believe defines your worth? Is it your job, your income, your possessions, your titles? Because the truth is, all of those things can vanish in an instant. The ground you think is solid can crumble beneath you, and if your identity is tied to what you own, you may lose yourself when it's gone. But Michael S.'s story reminds us that our true worth, ISNT, in what we have it S in who we are. It's in the love we give, the kindness we show, the strength we carry when everything else is stripped away. The turning point in life often comes when we lose what we thought mattered, only to discover what really does. So if you find yourself in a season of loss, if you feel like everything you built is crumbling, remember Michael. Remember that even when you leave with nothing, you can still find everything that truly matters. Because in the end, the greatest treasures of life cannot be bought, cannot be owned, and cannot be taken away. They live in your heart, in your relationships, in the moments of kindness and love that make this journey worth walking. He left with nothing, but he found everything, and so can you.